She walked along the dusty street, cradling her baby close to her chest, her thin shawl barely shielding them from the heat of the afternoon sun. Her name was Maya, and she was no stranger to hardship. She had lost her husband 2 years ago, leaving her to fend for herself and her infant daughter, Lila. Every morning she rose before dawn to gather empty bottles and clean rags, selling them at the local recycling center for a few rupees. It was the only way she could ensure Lila had a meal each day. This particular day she spotted a small boy sobbing by the side of a crumbling wall. His clothes were neat and clean, and his tiny shoes seemed too fine for the dusty road. Maya approached him cautiously, unsure if she could help. The boy's tears fell freely as he clutched a tattered backpack close to him, his shoulders shaking with grief. Maya kneeled beside him, setting Lila gently on the ground. She wiped the sweat from her brow before reaching out a hand to the boy. "Beta," she said softly, using the tender word for child. He looked up at her, his eyes red and swollen. "My kite. It broke," he whispered, voice cracking. "My kite. It was special." Maya glanced at the broken kite tangled in a thorny bush nearby. Despite her hunger and exhaustion, she felt a surge of compassion. She took Lila in her arms again and moved closer to the bush, carefully disentangling the fragile frame. The boy watched her with suspicion, as if unsure whether someone of her status would care for his pain. When she freed the kite, she handed it to the boy. He held it gently, turning it over in his small hands. The tail was torn, and one of the wooden supports was cracked. Maya shifted her shawl, loosening the binding on her waist. With delicate movements, she unwrapped a scrap of cloth and a piece of thread from her bag. She knelt and began to mend the kite's tattered tail, carefully tying knots and smoothing the fabric. Her fingers worked deftly, accustomed to stitching torn clothes even as her own dress hung in tatters. Lila whimpered, reaching for milk. Maya tucked the kite aside for a moment and nursed her daughter before returning to the task. She hummed an old lullaby, her voice soft and calming despite the noise of the bustling street. The boy's sobs quieted as he watched her work, mesmerized by her skill. When the kite was mended, Maya stood and offered it back to him. "Thank you," he said quietly, his tears replaced by a shy smile. He held out a hand and placed a small coin in Maya's palm, but she shook her head. "No reward," she replied. "Just fly it and be happy." The boy looked at Lila, cooing and reaching for the sky. He nodded and turned away, racing down the street to launch the kite. Maya watched him go, relief washing over her. She gathered Lila and resumed her walk toward the recycling center, thinking that perhaps this small act of kindness had given her purpose. Unbeknownst to Maya, a sleek black car had slowed near the scene. Tinted windows concealed a man who had watched every moment. His name was Arjun Mehta, a prominent CEO known for his charitable donations but rarely seen in the slums of this city. He had been meeting a client nearby when the sight of the distressed boy and the kind woman had caught his attention. He observed the way she tended to the boy without hesitation, ignoring her own troubles to help someone else. Arjun's heart swelled as he saw Maya cradle her baby. He felt a stir of something unfamiliar, admiration, perhaps even respect. He wanted to know more about the woman who had shown such compassion. The next day, Arjun arranged for a small team to deliver a package to Maya's modest shack. Inside, he placed fresh clothes for her and Lila, a bundle of nutritious food, and a small note with his signature. But instead of signing his name, he wrote simply, "A friend." Maya opened the package that evening. She had returned from her morning work to find a knock at her door. A delivery boy handed her the box, refusing to take any money. Confused, she brought it inside and set it next to Lila as she played on a faded blanket. Tears stung her eyes as she opened the box and saw the clothes, soft, colorful garments that Lila could outgrow over several seasons. The food was a rare luxury: packets of milk powder, rice, lentils, and a few sweet treats she dared not taste. Maya opened the folded paper and read, "Dear friend, I hope these gifts find you and your daughter in good health. I saw you yesterday when you helped the little boy with the kite. Your kindness moved me. Please accept this small token of support. May your days be brighter. Sincerely, a friend. She read the words over and over, disbelief mingled with gratitude. She looked at Lila, who smiled and reached for the clothes. Maya knelt beside her, tears slipping down her cheeks. For the first time in years, she felt someone cared enough to help without expecting anything in return. She clutched the note to her chest and whispered a prayer of thanks. Days passed, and Maya found that the clothes fit Lila perfectly. She no longer feared how she would feed her daughter. She resumed her work at the recycling center, but her heart felt lighter. Each day, she wandered through the crowded alleys, hoping to catch a glimpse of the boy whose kite she had fixed. The boy, whose name she learned was Rohan, would wave at her whenever he saw her, his kite dancing high above the rooftops. One afternoon, as Maya tended to her usual tasks, a crisp invitation arrived. It bore the emblem of Meta Industries embossed in gold. The envelope was addressed to Maya. She stared at it, confusion and curiosity warring within her. Who could have sent such an invitation? With trembling hands, she opened it. You are cordially invited to Meta Industries' annual charity gala. We would be honored by your presence. December 12th, 7 p.m. Meta Industries headquarters. Dress code, traditional elegant attire. The invitation fell from her hands as she sank onto the floor. A gala. A place she had only seen from afar on passing billboards. A world of chandeliers, tailored suits and flowing gowns. She touched her worn sandals, her faded dress, and wondered if there had been some mistake. Perhaps the invitation was meant for someone else. That night, sleep eluded her. She lay beside her daughter, thinking of the invitation. In the morning, Maya unfolded the note again, searching for clues. There was no name, only the vague signature, a friend. Gathering her courage, she decided to attend. She owed it to herself and to Lila to see where this path might lead. She spent the next few days sewing a simple yet dignified dress from scraps of fabric she had saved. She washed Lila's new clothes and set them aside. She practiced walking in borrowed sandals, balancing herself in front of a small mirror carved out of an old metal tray. On the night of the gala, Maya held Lila close as she stepped out of the rickshaw. Meta Industries headquarters loomed before her, an imposing glass building lit like a beacon in the night. Security guards in crisp uniforms checked the invitations and let them pass. Maya's heart pounded as she entered the grand lobby. Crystal, chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting a warm glow over marble floors. Guests in glittering attire mingled, laughing and sipping champagne. Maya felt out of place, but she carried herself with quiet dignity. Someone approached her, bowing slightly. Ms. Meta, he said. Maya's pulse quickened. He led her through a corridor into a private room. She heard muffled voices and footsteps, then the door opened. Arjun Mehta stood before her, dressed in a tailored suit, his hair immaculately styled. His gaze was steady as he approached. Maya's eyes met his. In that moment, she recognized the man who had watched her from the car, the man who had sent the gifts. She realized that he was the one who had extended a helping hand without revealing his identity. "Why did you do this?" she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Arjun offered a shy smile. "I saw your kindness. In a world where so many look away, you stepped forward without hesitation." He looked down at Lila. "She's beautiful." Maya felt warmth spread through her chest. "You didn't have to do any of this." She glanced around the room, overwhelmed by the luxury. He nodded. "I know. But I wanted to ensure you and Lila had a chance at a better life. You deserve more than what fate has given you." Tears welled in Maya's eyes. She thought of her husband, of every sacrifice she had made to raise Lila. She thought of the poverty that had dogged her every step. And yet here stood a man who saw beyond her tattered clothes to her heart. She reached out and took his hand. "Thank you," she whispered. Arjun rose and extended his other hand to help her stand. A spotlight shone on them, and the chatter in the room hushed as the guests turned to look. Arjun raised her hand and addressed the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I want to honor a woman whose compassion knows no bounds. Maya, please accept our gratitude. The audience applauded and Maya felt as though she were floating. She curtsied awkwardly, her cheeks burning. She met Rohan's gaze across the room. The boy had arrived earlier with his father. He grinned and waved, his kite trailing behind him on a string. Maya realized that the boy's simple happiness had touched more lives than she could have imagined. In the audience, people whispered about her resilience, her unwavering kindness. After the applause died down, Arjun led Maya to a table set aside just for them. Lila squirmed in her arms, reaching for the silverware. Maya laughed softly, her heart full. As they sat and the evening unfolded with speeches and music, Maya felt a sense of hope bloom within her. For the first time in her life, she believed that she could escape the bonds of poverty and give her daughter a future filled with promise. Arjun leaned toward Maya, his eyes warm. "There's something I'd like to ask you," he said softly. Maya's stomach fluttered. She nodded. "I want to offer you a job at one of our community outreach programs. You have a gift for caring for others, and I believe you could help many families like your own." Maya blinked. "But I have no experience." He shook his head. "Experience isn't as important as heart. I want you to lead a new initiative to support single mothers. You'll help them find work and provide childcare support. You won't do it alone. Our team will back you, but I want you to lead it." Maya's mind spun. She had never dreamed of such an opportunity. She thought of her days scavenging for bottles, the nights she cried herself to sleep. She thought of Lila and the promise of a new life. She drew a deep breath. "I accept," she said. Arjun smiled, relief and pride mingling on his face. They spent the rest of the evening speaking quietly, planning the program. Rohan joined them, climbing onto the chair beside Maya. He handed her the kite, its tail fluttering. She took it and tousled his hair. "Thank you," he said. "Any time, Beta," she replied. The gala continued, but Maya's world had changed. She had gone from a struggling single mother to a beacon of hope for others. She remembered the day she mended that kite, unaware that her simple act of kindness had set this chain of events into motion. She realized that sometimes the smallest gestures carried the greatest power. In the weeks that followed, Maya began working with Meta Industries. She visited slum communities, meeting single mothers who struggled just as she had. She organized workshops for sewing, childcare, and financial literacy. She hired local women to assist her. With each family she helped, she remembered the gratitude she felt when she first read Arjun's note. She understood the ripple effect of kindness, and in her own life, she found new strength. Leela started attending a small school funded by the program. Maya established a microloan fund that allowed women to start small businesses, from selling home-cooked meals to offering tailoring services. She saw mothers stand tall, proud that they could feed their children without relying on charity. One evening, as Maya closed her office, Rohan arrived with a group of friends. They had decorated the corridor with paper kites, each bearing messages of thanks from children whose families she had helped. Maya's eyes filled with tears as she read the messages. "Thank you for believing in me. You changed our lives. Bless you." She looked at Rohan, who held the largest kite, painted with a picture of her and Lila. The words read, "To Maya, our hero." Maya knelt to embrace him. "This is beautiful," she said. Rohan smiled. "We wanted you to know how much you mean to us." Maya held the kite and felt its lightweight frame fill her heart with hope. She realized that her journey, from the dusty street where she had first met Rohan, to the baldric of a gala, to the heart of a community program, had been guided by compassion. She had given what little she had, and in return, she had received far more. That night, Maya stood on the balcony of her modest home, Lila asleep in her arms. She watched the paper kites flutter from the windows of the Meta building far in the distance. The city lights shone like a sea of stars. She whispered a prayer of gratitude, knowing that though she had faced countless hardships, she had never lost her capacity to love and help others. And as she tucked Lila into bed and closed the door behind her, she smiled, knowing that a simple act of mending a broken kite had set into motion a chain of love that would transform her world forever. Maya's days often began before the first light of dawn, long before the markets awoke. In the stillness, she prepared a simple breakfast of flatbread and lentils for herself and Lila. She dressed in a sari she had salvaged and mended beyond recognition, its bright patterns faded by time. Stepping outside, she inhaled the scent of damp earth mixed with smoke from cooking fires. She moved through narrow alleys toward the recycling depot, Lila asleep on her back, lulled by her mother's gentle steps. At the depot, she labored alongside other women, sorting glass and plastic, hands raw from scrubbing. She exchanged friendly nods but rarely spoke. Her reserved manner masked her resilience. When lunchtime arrived, she sat on a wooden crate, offering morsels of rice and lentils to Lila. Sometimes other mothers shared small portions, reminding her that compassion survived even the toughest places. She thought of her life before hardship, the modest home she shared with Raj, her husband. He fixed motorcycles in a small garage, his laughter echoing through their dwelling. They dreamed of sending Lila to school, of building a life free from hunger. But when Raj fell ill, pneumonia stole him away within days. Maya wept for months, haunted by his gentle encouragement. Still, she rose each day to honor his memory, determined to protect their daughter. After the gala, her role at Meta Industries became central to her identity. At the community center, she greeted mothers and fathers seeking guidance. She taught them how to sew basic garments, manage a simple budget, and care for their children. Each success story filled her heart. A single father who took a job as a security guard so his daughter could finish school. A teenage mother who found work as a baker. One evening, as monsoon rains began, Maya walked home with Lila under an umbrella shared with neighbors. The air was cool, the smell of wet earth pungent. She thought of the future, of families who had placed their trust in her. She thought of Rohan, sitting proudly in a classroom at a private school funded by Arjun's charity. She remembered the day she first met him, his tears over a broken kite, and how that moment had spiraled into something greater than she could have imagined. At home, she looked at the photo of Raj pinned beside a small altar. She lit a single candle and bowed her head. In the flickering light, she saw his guiding spirit. She whispered a silent promise to work for every struggling family she encountered. She believed that through her efforts, her husband's memory would live on, and Lila would grow up knowing that even in the face of loss, hope could prevail. That night, Maya placed Lila in her cradle and sat by the window, watching raindrops trace patterns on the pane. She thought of Arjun's faith in her, of the orphaned children who now knew the sweetness of school books, of the kites dancing beyond the slum's boundary. She felt gratitude for every hardship that had shaped her. And in her heart, she carried a simple truth. Kindness, once given, could return in endless ways, illuminating lives far beyond one person's reach. In the soft glow of the candle, she felt a peaceful resolve.